Thought is the master key. Every kingdom, every failure, every monument, and every ruin began in the secret chambers of thought. If your mind is ruled by chaos, your life will mirror it. But if it is forged in discipline, focus, and vision, nothing outside you can destroy you. The world may throw storms at you, but a trained mind becomes the lighthouse that guides the way through. Understand this: the battlefield is not the world, it's your mind. Victory or defeat begins there. You are always becoming something. Every thought you tolerate, every image you obsess over, every word you repeat inside your head, it's forming you, brick by brick. Most people allow fear to build their foundation. They worry, doubt, envy, and entertain weakness. Then they ask why their life is fragile. But you, if you can take control of that inner dialogue, you can rebuild yourself into anything. You can become relentless, unshakable, unstoppable. Control is not given, it's claimed. And mental control is the most powerful force in existence. When your thoughts are clear, your actions follow. When your beliefs are strong, your habits align. And when your vision is locked in, the world bends to match your intention. But you must not allow distractions to feed in. Every weak thought is an enemy soldier. Every time you indulge in smallness, you surrender a piece of your power. Guard your mind like a fortress. You wouldn't let a thief into your home, but you let destructive thoughts run freely in your head. Shut the gate. Let no idea enter without being questioned. Ask, does this thought build me? Does it serve my vision? If not, discard it without apology. Your mind is sacred. Don't allow garbage to define your destiny. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are only what you consistently think and act upon. Even the heaviest chains can be broken with a single decision backed by burning thought. Change doesn't begin with a job, a city, or a new routine. Change begins with a new thought repeated with such intensity that it reshapes your entire identity. The secret lies in repetition. One thought alone cannot do much. But a thought repeated daily, believed completely, spoken loudly, it becomes a command to the subconscious, and the subconscious obeys. It begins shaping your energy, your body, your results, your opportunities. The world will start reacting differently to you, not because the world changed, but because you did. You can think yourself into failure, or you can think yourself into fortune. Those who master their mind master their fate. The man who holds a vision in his mind and refuses to surrender it, no matter the setbacks, no matter the ridicule, will eventually walk into that vision as reality. It's not magic. It's mental law. Thought, fused with belief, directed by purpose, will always become form. There is no shortcut. This requires effort, daily, hourly, relentlessly. You must reject every weak excuse. You must crush every maybe with a must. Thoughts are not toys, they are tools. Used properly, they can carve a life of greatness, but handled carelessly, they will cut you down. If you think small, you will live small. If you think like a victim, you will stay chained. But if you dare to think like a conqueror, if you dare to believe that you are chosen for something higher, then every step, every breath, every moment becomes a weapon in your rise. You become what you think. So think powerfully. Think intentionally. Think only of what you desire to experience. Never let a thought enter your mind that you wouldn't want to see in your reality. Every second you spend dwelling on fear or failure is a second stolen from your destiny. This is your life. You have one mind, one will, one fire. Use it. Master your thoughts or be ruled by them. The choice is always yours, and your future is waiting on your decision. Thought is the origin of all power. Before any action is taken, before any achievement is claimed, before any empire is built or dream is lived, there was first a thought, invisible, silent, unnoticed by the world. Yet it is this unseen force that has shaped every destiny and defined every fate. If you wish to master life, you must begin not with your hands, not with your voice, not with your environment, but with your thoughts. Because nothing exists outside the mind that wasn't first born within it. Every great leap forward begins in silence, in solitude, with a mind that dares to believe it can. If your thoughts are weak, your life will be fragile. If your thoughts are strong, your life will echo with power. You do not stumble into greatness. You think your way into it, obsess over it, and breathe it into being. What you think about all day long is what you become. This is not philosophy, it is law. Think fear, and your life will shrink. Think limitation, and your opportunities vanish. Think poverty, and you will sabotage every chance to rise. But when you think victory, when you see it so clearly that no one can convince you otherwise, your mind begins aligning every fiber of your being with that image. The universe responds to the man who refuses to allow anything less than his vision to dominate his mental world. The world mirrors your dominant vibration, and your vibration is controlled by your most repeated thoughts. You are not defined by circumstances. You are defined by the thoughts you entertain when no one is watching. The one who masters his thoughts cannot be defeated. He might be delayed, he might be doubted, he might be ignored, but he cannot be stopped. Because no matter what the outside world says, the inside world is speaking louder. Most people are prisoners of their minds. They react. They absorb the world's opinions. They listen to fear, feed doubt, and nurture weakness. But the few who rise, the few who shape history, are those who take full command of their mental environment. They choose their thoughts the way a warrior selects his weapons. They do not allow random feelings to lead them. They lead their feelings with deliberate thinking. Everything you need is already within you, but it's buried under years of mental clutter, under voices that aren't yours, under beliefs that don't serve you, under images of who you were, not who you're becoming. Your job is to clean the house of your mind, remove everything that does not serve the life you want, throw out every thought that tells you you're not enough, erase every belief that says you're too late, eliminate every mental pattern that repeats failure. Your mind is not a garbage can, it is a throne. And only powerful, aligned, commanding thoughts should sit upon it. Discipline your thinking like a general disciplines an army. Do not let thoughts wander. Do not entertain what weakens you. Every thought must pass a test. Does it serve your future? If not, cut it off. The mind left untrained will drift into chaos. But the trained mind becomes the strongest force in the world. It does not matter what happened to you. It does not matter what others think. The only thing that matters is what you think, repeatedly, obsessively, relentlessly. Over time, these thoughts carve your path and harden your will. You cannot live a powerful life with a weak mind. The man who thinks in power walks in power. He enters a room and changes its energy, not because he says anything, but because his mind is already commanding the moment. He visualizes success before it happens. He sees abundance where others see lack. He creates opportunity while others complain. And this power does not come from luck. It comes from the repetition of empowered thought until it becomes belief, and belief becomes action, and action becomes results. What most call confidence is simply the habit of thinking strong thoughts. What most call luck is simply the result of aligned thinking acted upon with courage. You are the architect of your future. With every thought, you are building it brick by brick. Thoughts of fear, they lay a foundation of doubt. Thoughts of regret, they add walls of limitation. But thoughts of vision, of certainty, of unstoppable belief, they build a fortress. When life attacks, it cannot penetrate the mind that has already won the battle in thought. Your outer reality is just a delayed reflection of your inner world. Plant greatness in the mind, and eventually it shows up in form. Plant hesitation, and you will stumble endlessly, wondering why the world resists you. The mind is not a playground. It is sacred ground. And every thought you allow in is either building your empire or tearing it down. Speak to yourself with power. See yourself in victory. Feel the strength of your own future flowing through every thought you repeat. Do not let your mind be a victim of the past. Let it be a weapon for the future. You have no business dwelling on what could go wrong when you have the power to shape what will go right. Do not wait for the world to believe in you. Believe in yourself so powerfully that the world has no choice but to catch up. Each moment your mind is listening to your thoughts and adjusting your reality accordingly. If you think like a giant, your life stretches to match. If you think like a failure, your world will shrink. You are always becoming. The question is, what are you becoming through the thoughts you allow? You can think yourself into darkness, or you can think yourself into light. You can think defeat and welcome it in, or you can think domination and walk into any room prepared to conquer. The power has always been yours, and it begins not in the world, but in the secret, silent, unbreakable place inside your mind. Your outer world is a mirror of your inner dialogue. Every circumstance you face, every opportunity that rises or escapes you, every relationship, every victory, every loss They all reflect one thing, the quality and direction of your dominant thoughts. You cannot escape it. Life will always echo what the mind whispers. The language you speak within is a blueprint for everything that appears outside of you. If your internal words are soaked in fear, your reality will be shadowed by limitation. If your internal voice is filled with power, your surroundings begin to respond as if the world itself is conspiring in your favor. Your self-talk is not just noise, it is instruction. Every phrase you repeat to yourself, every label you wear in silence, every mental image you revisit becomes a command to your subconscious. And your subconscious obeys without hesitation or judgment. The most dangerous lies are not the ones spoken aloud, they are the ones you silently accept. When you tell yourself you're not good enough, not ready, not worthy, the universe doesn't argue. It simply aligns events to match your belief. People treat you the way you treat yourself. They respect you in proportion to the respect you show in your own thoughts. They believe in you as deeply as you believe in your worth behind closed doors. The man who doubts himself creates a world that confirms his doubt. The man who speaks courage inwardly creates doors where others see walls. The world is not cruel or kind, it is reflective. It gives back to you the reality you declare inside your own mind. No great transformation begins on the outside. The moment you shift the tone of your internal conversation, everything begins to change. Say to yourself, I am capable, and the mind begins searching for proof. Say, I will rise, and your subconscious starts building the steps. Your words do not just describe your life, they direct it. Every phrase you whisper in frustration becomes a prophecy. Every declaration you repeat in strength becomes a foundation. A man who constantly complains within will find more to complain about. A man who constantly declares growth will see challenges as teachers and failures as fuel. The world listens to your internal tone. Speak in defeat and you will attract more situations that beat you down. Speak in belief and the world bends toward you, shifting subtly at first, then powerfully, until everything you touch begins to mirror your confidence. You do not change your life by force. You change it by thought. You rewrite the code by changing what you say to yourself when no one is around to hear it. In moments of fear, say strength. In moments of uncertainty, say clarity. In moments of failure, say rebirth. You must never allow the external noise of life to drown the authority of your internal command. The man who speaks with clarity to himself, who builds a habit of internal certainty, becomes a force impossible to stop. He does not need external validation because he has already validated himself in thought. He does not wait for confidence to show up. He speaks it into existence. He does not seek permission to grow. He gives himself orders to rise. And that tone, that commanding voice, eventually changes the course of his life without needing applause, recognition, or permission. He walks differently not because the world treats him differently, but because he first treated himself as someone who is destined for more self-talk. Is not motivation, it is mental programming. The words you repeat become the scripts your life follows. Tell yourself you can't, and you won't. Tell yourself you're chosen, and you'll begin to act like it. The inner voice must become your strongest ally. Not a critic, not a judge, not a victim, but a general, a builder, a creator. That voice must speak truth, but not small truth, the highest truth. The truth of who you are beyond circumstance, beyond pain, beyond fear. That voice must remind you daily that nothing outside you has the right to define what happens next unless you grant it, that power through silence. The man who changes his inner dialogue changes his identity. The moment he stops saying, I'm broken, and starts saying, I'm becoming, his path alters. He begins moving in alignment with the future he envisions, not the past he survived. He begins to see obstacles not as proof of his limits, but as tests of his resolve. His inner language shifts from why me to try me, from I wish to I will, from someday to now. And that shift, though invisible to others, is the spark that ignites every visible change to come. Nothing around you will change until what's within you changes first. The man who speaks power to himself wakes up stronger every day, not because life is easier, but because his voice is louder than his opposition. He sees opportunity in rejection, clarity in silence, energy in solitude. His self-talk becomes the fuel that drives him through chaos, through setbacks, through loneliness. When others fold, he speaks himself forward. When others freeze, he declares movement. When others doubt, he doubles down on belief, not because the evidence is there, but because the evidence is created by the consistency of his mental tone. Your thoughts are the seeds. Your words are the water. Your repetition is the sunlight. Grow weeds in the mind, and they will infest the world you live in. Grow power, and that power becomes a landscape you walk through with authority. You cannot speak defeat within and expect to win without. You cannot hate yourself in silence and expect the world to love you loudly. You cannot think small and live large. Your world will always match the energy you speak when you're alone. You do not need more money, more followers, more chances. You need a better conversation with yourself. Command your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. Reject every thought that makes you shrink. Uproot every internal sentence that questions your strength. Replace every lie with the truth of who you are becoming. Speak your future. Speak your power. Speak your next level into existence with so much clarity, so much repetition, so much force, that the world can't help but mirror it back to you. Fear and doubt are mental weeds. They do not scream when they enter. They whisper. They grow in silence, unnoticed, until one day you look around and realize your confidence has been strangled, your vision clouded, your ambition buried under layers of hesitation. These weeds are not accidental. They are planted every time you hesitate to trust yourself, every time you entertain someone else's opinion over your inner voice, every time you replay a failure and call it truth. Fear does not begin with disaster. It begins with a thought. Doubt does not require a reason. It only needs a moment of weakness to take root. And once these thoughts are accepted, they do not remain idle. They multiply. They invade every dream, every plan, every desire, wrapping around your potential until it suffocates and dies unseen by the world. You were not born with fear. You were taught it. You absorbed it from the failures of others, from their insecurities, their warnings, their limitations disguised as wisdom. And because the world repeats fear more than courage, doubt more than belief, you began to think it was normal. But there is nothing normal about living below your capacity. There is nothing natural about waking up every day unsure of your worth. That is not your design. It is your programming. And the moment you accept fear as part of your identity, you begin to protect it. You begin to defend your limitations instead of destroying them. You rationalize your stagnation. You build fences around your discomfort and call it safety. The mind, if left unmanaged, does not default to power. It defaults to protection. And protection unchecked becomes paralysis. Fear tells you it's too late. Doubt whispers that you're not ready. And if you listen long enough, you start shaping your choices around these lies. You stop reaching, you stop believing, you stop moving. You begin to mistake caution for intelligence and assume that survival is success. But you weren't made to survive, you were made to dominate. You were designed to grow, to stretch, to break past the borders of every former version of yourself. And to do that, you must uproot the weeds that block your expansion. Fear does not vanish by ignoring it. It vanishes by confronting it. You must stare it down. You must question it, strip it, expose it. Ask it what evidence it has. Ask it who planted it. Ask it why it lives in your mind rent-free. You'll find that fear has no strength on its own. It only grows because you water it, with your attention, with your overthinking, with your agreement. But the moment you say no more, the moment you stop giving it life, it begins to die. You are not the prisoner, you are the warden. And your permission is the only thing that allows fear to stay doubt, is a liar dressed in logic. It disguises itself as reason. It uses the language of statistics, of probability, of what usually happens. But you are not here to live the usual life. You are not average. You are not typical. You are not the sum of others' fears. Doubt will always give you a reason not to act. And if you wait for doubt to disappear before you move, you'll wait forever. Action kills doubt. Movement shatters hesitation. The man who walks into the unknown with conviction is feared by the world, because nothing scares him more than staying small. You must pull the weeds with violence. You must attack fear with decisions. You must cut down doubt with bold execution. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Now. The longer fear stays, the deeper its roots grow, and what was once a passing thought becomes a permanent belief. Do not let doubt write your story. Do not let fear design your days, because one day you will look back and realize the only thing that ever stood between you and the life you saw in your mind was a thought you should have destroyed. When it first appeared, you will be tested. Fear will visit again. Doubt will knock at your door. But when your mind is trained, when your internal ground is guarded, you will no longer welcome them. You will no longer entertain their lies. You will recognize their voice and respond with action. Fear says you can't. You say, watch me. Doubt says, it might not work. You say, I'll make it work. You answer fear with fire. You answer hesitation with hunger. You answer uncertainty with unshakable belief, not because the world gave it to you, but because you built it brick by brick inside your own mind. You are not fragile. You are not broken. You are not weak. You have just been infested with thoughts that don't belong to you. You have accepted identities that were never yours to begin with. You have allowed fear to narrate your future and doubt to hold the pen. But now you take it back. Now you decide. Now you remove every root, every vine, every poison thought that says you cannot become who you were born to be. You are a builder, a creator, a force. And nothing, no memory, no mistake, no fear, has the right to live in your mind unless you allow it. The cost of fear is your potential. The price of doubt is your purpose. And the reward of courage is everything you've ever imagined and more. The war is not outside of you, it is inside. And the victory belongs to the one who dares to confront his weeds and plant new seeds, seeds of certainty, seeds of strength, seeds that say, I will rise, I will grow, I will not be stopped. Not because the world makes it easy, but because my mind makes it final. That is how the weeds are removed. That is how the garden is reclaimed. That is how the life you were born to live begins to bloom in full force, without apology, without fear, without doubt. Definiteness of thought is your strongest weapon. It cuts through confusion like a blade through fog. While others hesitate, while the world dances in circles of doubt and distraction, the one who possesses clarity of thought moves with precision, speed, and power. Uncertainty is the enemy of progress, and most people drown in it daily. They think 100 things, start 1,000 paths, and finish none. Their minds are split, their vision scattered, and their actions diluted. But the man who decides exactly what he wants, locks it in his mind, and refuses to consider failure, this man is unstoppable. Because definiteness creates direction, and direction creates energy. When the mind is certain, it becomes a magnet for action. It eliminates wasted motion, shatters fear, and transforms even average ability into lethal force. The world doesn't move for the man who's merely interested. It moves for the one who is definite. When you know exactly what you want, you begin to radiate an energy that bends conditions in your favor. People respond differently to you. Doors begin to open. Obstacles retreat. Not because they are weak, but because your intention is stronger. Life respects the one who has made up his mind. Not half-heartedly, not casually, but absolutely. The man who says, this is mine. I will have it. I will create it. I will not quit until it is done, speaks with the authority of a master. He commands results because he no longer tolerates alternatives. Most fail, not because they lack intelligence or resources, but because their minds are divided. They live with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. They say they want greatness, but they also want comfort. They say they want change, but they also cling to the familiar. They say they want success, but they leave escape routes open for failure. This internal split weakens them at the root. Every day becomes a negotiation. Every decision is tortured by what if and maybe. But definiteness ends the debate. It silences the noise. It draws a hard line in the sand and says, this is the direction, and everything else becomes irrelevant. Definiteness creates urgency. When you are certain about your destination, you stop wasting time. You stop listening to distractions. You stop entertaining every offer, every opinion, every criticism. You operate with focus, you move with speed, and you act without hesitation. There is no waiting for permission, no asking for validation. The decision has been made. The direction has been set. And the only thing left is execution. This is why the definite man wins. He is not the smartest or the most talented. He is the most committed. He made the decision once and never questioned it again. Indecision is the breeding ground of fear. The longer you hesitate, the stronger your doubts become. The longer you delay action, the more your mind begins to invent reasons to quit. But when your thought is definite, you rob fear of its fuel. You give it no time to grow. You suffocate it with certainty. The mind that moves forward quickly and decisively is not reckless. It is disciplined. It understands that clarity breeds power, that hesitation kills momentum, and that progress belongs to those who stop thinking about what might go wrong and start building what will go right. Definiteness sharpens your senses. You begin to see what others miss. You spot opportunities others overlook. Because your mind is locked on a single outcome, you filter the world through that vision. Everything you read, hear, and experience becomes a tool for your mission. Your subconscious works in the background, gathering ideas, solving problems, creating shortcuts. Life begins to cooperate with the man who knows exactly what he wants, not because it favors him, but because he has become focused enough to spot every advantage, every connection, every hidden pathway that moves him forward. The man with a definite thought does not chase trends. He does not follow the crowd. He sets his own course. He does not dilute his power by trying to be everything to everyone. He becomes dangerous by narrowing his mind into a single aim. That aim becomes an obsession, and obsession backed by clarity is the engine behind all legendary achievements. Those who win at the highest level are not confused. They are consumed. Their thought is not passive, it is a command. A mental order that is followed by the full force of their body, spirit, and action. Every time you make a firm decision, you eliminate weakness. You draw power from within. You send a signal to your mind, your body, and the universe that you are no longer playing, that you are no longer entertaining failure as an option. You align everything you are around one purpose. And in doing so, you awaken strength you didn't know you had. The path becomes clearer. The next step appears. Resources show up. Allies arrive, not by accident, but by response. The world always responds to a mind that has made itself clear. Definiteness does not mean knowing every detail. It means refusing to stop until the vision is realized. It means making the decision first and figuring out the method along the way. The man with a definite goal never waits for everything to make sense. He moves, he adapts, he learns through action, because he understands that movement creates clarity, and clarity creates results. You don't get to see the full map before you begin. You create the map by walking. And each step forward, taken with certainty, builds a road that didn't exist before you are either training your mind for power or letting it drift into weakness. You are either locking in on your aim or wandering aimlessly. You are either becoming sharper or more scattered. There is no neutral. And if you want to own your future, you must first own your thought. Make it definite. Make it final. Make it unbreakable. Because once your thought is fixed, once your decision is made, and once your path is claimed, nothing on earth can deny the man who refuses to be denied a single dominant desire, held obsessively, becomes destiny. It does not remain an idea. It transforms into a force. It begins as a whisper in the mind and ends as a roar in the world. The man who locks onto one burning desire and refuses to let it go has already altered his fate. The world may not notice at first. The people around him may mock or doubt. But deep within, something has shifted. His thoughts are no longer scattered. His energy is no longer divided. Everything within him begins to align behind one mission, one purpose, one vision. That desire becomes a magnet pulling him through obstacles, pulling him through rejection, pulling him through the hours when nothing makes sense and no one believes. Still he moves, because the desire is not casual. It is absolute desire, is not wishful thinking. It is not hope. It is not a fantasy. Desire, when held obsessively, becomes the central authority of a man's life. It begins to control what he reads, who he speaks to, what he watches, where he goes, how he spends every hour. He no longer needs motivation. He is driven by something deeper. When others need reminders to stay on track, he is already moving. While others are distracted by entertainment, he is sharpening his focus. The desire consumes his thinking. He sees his vision in everything. It becomes impossible to escape. Every setback becomes fuel. Every failure becomes instruction. Every doubt becomes another reason to press forward even harder. There's a difference between wanting and desiring. Most people want. Few truly desire. Wanting is passive. It sounds good, but it fades when faced with difficulty. Desire, real desire, becomes hunger. It becomes non-negotiable. It turns into a fire that burns beneath everything you do. You do not get tired because you are carried by vision. You do not quit because you've already decided there is no alternative. You wake up with it, you go to bed with it, you carry it with you into every room, every meeting, every challenge. It becomes your identity, your focus, your reason. The man with one obsession does not need to convince others. His presence speaks. His energy communicates certainty. He does not chase opportunities. He creates them. He does not beg for approval. He moves as one who already knows the outcome. His obsession has carved a path in his mind so deep, so familiar, so powerful, that nothing external can shake it. He can lose everything on the outside and still win, because what he carries within is stronger than circumstance. He is no longer controlled by the world. He is directed by a mission that has already been declared final within himself. Every breakthrough begins with obsession. Every legend, every master, every empire was born from a single idea held with relentless emotion. And it wasn't genius that made the difference. It was refusal. Refusal to quit. Refusal to doubt. Refusal to entertain any vision smaller than the one burned into their mind. The man who becomes something great is rarely the one with the best talent. He is the one who refused to be ordinary. He is the one who found a desire so deep it shattered every excuse, silenced every critic, and forced reality to obey his will. The problem is not lack of time. It is lack of obsession. When the desire becomes your reason for breathing, you find time. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop reasoning with fear. You stop listening to the voice that says you can't. You override it with a voice that repeats one thing: I must. I will. I was born for this. You speak it so often that your subconscious begins to adjust your entire being toward making it true. You align your habits. You change your friends. You become ruthless about your schedule, because anything that does not support your desire is now your enemy. Distractions lose their grip on the obsessed. There is no need to fight for focus when the only thing you see is your goal. Your obsession becomes the lens through which you experience the world. Even your failures serve your obsession. You begin to see setbacks not as signs to quit, but as proof that you are still in the fight. You no longer need signs from the universe. Your desire becomes your compass. Your heart becomes your guide. Your actions, day by day, carve the future you already see so clearly in your mind that it feels more real than the present moment. You do not become great by accident. You become great when you decide there is no other option. When you pick a single target and aim at it until your hands bleed. When you think about it while others rest. When you work on it while others sleep. When you plan it while others party. When you train while others quit. That level of focus changes you. It shapes your character. It forces you to grow into someone worthy of the destiny you see in your mind. And every moment you stay true to that obsession, you separate yourself further from the average and closer to the extraordinary. The world belongs to the obsessed. Not the balanced, not the neutral, not the occasionally interested. The obsessed move history. They build the unthinkable. They challenge what is and create what should be. And it all begins with one desire, locked in the mind, repeated until belief is born, and belief repeated until reality is formed. That desire must burn through every wall, every distraction, every delay. You must nurture it, feed it, protect it from small thinkers, guard it from the doubts of others, and most of all, protect it from the part of yourself that still wonders if it's possible. You have the power to become anything, but only if you decide to become something, only if you are willing to hold one vision so tightly that it bends the world to match it. That desire must become louder than your fear, deeper than your insecurities, stronger than your excuses. It must outlive disappointment, outlast rejection, and overpower every weak moment that tries to stop you. And when you hold it long enough, when you feed it with discipline, with belief, with work, the world begins to move. Not because you are lucky, but because your destiny was carved by a mind that refused to release the one desire that was never meant to die. You attract not what you want, but what you are. The world does not respond to begging, hoping, or wishing. It responds to identity. It responds to frequency. It responds to the invisible code you carry within your mind and express through every action, every word, every decision. You can scream your desires to the sky, but if your thoughts, habits, and self-image do not match the level of that desire, nothing will move. Wanting means nothing if it's not backed by being. The man who says he wants success but carries the energy of fear will repel it. The one who wants love but clings to insecurity will sabotage it. The one who dreams of greatness but thinks like a victim will always find ways to destroy his own rise. You don't get what you wish for. You get what your subconscious believes you deserve. This world is a mirror, not a warehouse. It doesn't store what you want and hand it to you on request. It reflects who you are at your core. It does not respond to your mask, your words, or your titles. It responds to your energy. If you are radiating doubt, you will meet resistance. If you are saturated in self-pity, you will attract more reasons to feel sorry for yourself. But if you walk with conviction, speak with certainty, act with authority, and think with vision, you begin to pull different results into your life. You begin to align with a new level of reality, not because life changed, but because your internal state demanded a higher response. The most powerful transformation is not external. It is internal. You can change cities, relationships, and jobs, but until you change who you are at the identity level, nothing sticks, because your reality always resets to match your internal standard. You may get a glimpse of a better life by accident, but if you haven't become the version of yourself that belongs there, you will find a way to destroy it, delay it, or disqualify yourself from it. This is why people sabotage opportunities. It's not that they don't want them, it's that they haven't become the person capable of receiving and holding them. You must stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "Who must I become to attract it?" That question changes everything, because once you shift from chasing to becoming, you move from desperation to magnetism. You don't chase abundance. You become abundant in thought, in word, in action. You don't chase excellence. You embody it until it shows up in your results. You don't chase power. You build it in silence until your presence commands it. And this inner work is not glamorous. It is not loud. It is built in solitude, in repetition, in the daily discipline of aligning your habits with your vision and your emotions with your future. Nothing comes to the man who is unclear. If your identity is scattered, your results will be too. You cannot vibrate at the level of indecision and expect a life of mastery. The world simply doesn't respond to confusion. It responds to decisiveness, to alignment, to integrity between what you think, what you say, and what you do. The man who knows who he is and moves accordingly cannot be ignored. He walks into rooms and changes their temperature, not because of what he wears, but because of what he emits. The energy of someone who has done the inner work cannot be faked, and it cannot be denied. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. You only need to embody your truth so deeply that the world has no choice but to recognize it. You cannot pretend your way to power. You cannot fake your way to wealth. You cannot wish your way to greatness. You must rise in identity first. You must carry the belief before the evidence. You must walk in the character of the future version of yourself before it feels natural. You must live now as if the vision has already been claimed, not in delusion, but in alignment. That is how transformation begins. That is how attraction works. People talk about the law of attraction as if it's magic, but there is nothing mystical about it. It is a reflection of internal law. Your thoughts shape your energy. Your energy shapes your decisions. Your decisions shape your actions. Your actions shape your results. And your results always reflect who you were being when you created them. If you do not like what you see around you, stop blaming the outside. Go within. Ask yourself who you are showing up as. Ask yourself what your dominant thoughts are. Ask yourself what identity you are projecting with your tone, your habits, your self-talk. And change from there. Everything around you is feedback. The people in your life, the opportunities you see, the doors that open or close, they are all mirrors showing you who you are, not who you claim to be. And the moment you accept this truth, you regain your power. No more wishing. No more waiting. No more complaining. Just the relentless decision to elevate your inner world until the outer world has no choice but to match it. That's when momentum begins. That's when shift happens. That's when your life changes. Not because you begged for it, but because you became it. Stop looking for shortcuts. Stop looking for hacks. Build yourself. Build the identity that matches the future you say you want. Build the habits, the mindset, the emotional resilience, the discipline. Build the clarity. Build the certainty. Because once you become it internally, the external begins to rearrange, not instantly, but inevitably. Because reality has no choice but to obey the man who walks in alignment with his highest self. That is not hope. That is law. Your energy introduces you before you speak. Your thoughts build the structure you live in. Your identity either opens the door or keeps it locked. You do not attract what you daydream about. You attract what you tolerate, what you practice, what you truly believe about yourself when no one else is watching. And when you elevate that belief, when you lock into the version of yourself that no longer negotiates with smallness, the world bends. It has to. Because the man who has become the thing he desires can no longer be denied by anything that exists outside of him. Circumstances bow to the man who refuses to accept defeat in thought. He does not beg for better days. He commands them, not with arrogance, but with certainty. Because he understands one truth that governs all achievement, reality is first conquered in the mind. Before any battle is fought in the world, it is fought and won within, and he does not entertain weakness in that inner domain. While others surrender to fear, complain of conditions, and shrink beneath pressure, he sharpens his mind into a weapon so unwavering that even chaos kneels before it. He is not special. He is disciplined. Disciplined enough to reject the seductive voice of doubt. Disciplined enough to override the noise of failure with the voice of persistence. The world has no choice but to move for the man who refuses to mentally move backward. No man rises by chance. He rises because his thoughts become immovable forces. Circumstances, no matter how severe, cannot restrain a mind that refuses to acknowledge limits. The man who succeeds is the one who believes before the evidence appears. He does not need permission. He does not ask the world if it's his time. He decides. And that decision is final. That is what separates the great from the average. Not talent, not opportunity, but the unbreakable inner resolve that says, I will not stop. His outer world may scream failure, but his inner world whispers victory louder. And it is that whisper that eventually shapes everything around him, because reality must bend to match the consistency of thought that refuses to break. Temporary defeat means nothing to the man who has trained his mind for war. Setbacks are not signals to quit. They are signals to grow. Obstacles are not threats. They are tools. And the man who refuses to think like a victim transforms every obstacle into a stepping stone. He has programmed his thoughts to see power where others see pain, to see opportunity where others see walls. This is not optimism. It is dominance, mental dominance. And it is rare, because most people are slaves to their circumstances. They believe what the world shows them. But the one who is truly free is the man who tells the world what to become by first becoming it within himself. A man who refuses to think defeat cannot be broken. He can be challenged, delayed, even knocked down, but never broken, because his thoughts never concede. And since thought is the root of all creation, he remains the architect of his life even when the storm rages. He may be surrounded by chaos, but he stays anchored. He may be underestimated, but he over-delivers. He may be doubted, but he knows who he is. And that knowing, that refusal to abandon the throne of his own mind, becomes the power that makes all things possible. He does not live in fantasy, he lives in truth. A truth he forged through countless hours of mental conditioning, through solitude, through repetition, through pain. Most men break before the world breaks them. They surrender in thought before failure even arrives. But the rare man, the one who shapes history, never gives his mind permission to retreat. He understands that all progress is mental long before it becomes material. He understands that the only thing he truly controls is how he thinks. And that control is everything. Because once the mind is owned, the rest of life follows. This is why the greatest victories are won in silence, in unseen battles, in the moment where fear creeps in and is crushed before it can grow, in the second when doubt knocks and is denied access. That is where destiny is written. No external force is stronger than internal conviction. The world can take your resources, your position, your connections, but it cannot take your will unless you hand it over. And the man who refuses to accept defeat in thought never gives the world that power. He builds his mind like a fortress, every day, brick by brick, with thoughts of power, focus, vision, and certainty. He allows no cracks. He lets no seed of weakness take root, because he knows that once weakness grows in thought, it becomes disease in action, and he does not have time for mental disease. He is building a future too large to accommodate smallness. The most powerful man is not the one who speaks loudest, it's the one who speaks most clearly to himself, the man who silences internal chaos, who programs belief so deeply that it radiates without effort. He walks with the energy of a king long before the crown is visible, and eventually the world recognizes that energy, not because he asked for recognition, but because his thought made it impossible to ignore. Every great achievement you've ever seen, every empire built, every breakthrough created, began with a thought that refused to die, a thought that stood firm when everything else crumbled. And it is available to anyone ruthless enough to guard their mind. If you want the world to respect you, start by refusing to disrespect yourself in thought. Eliminate hesitation. Replace indecision with clarity. Replace fear with discipline. And when defeat whispers to you, respond with action, not reaction. Action rooted in an identity that has already chosen to win. Because you don't rise when the opportunity comes, you rise before, in silence, when no one is watching, when the only thing pushing you forward is the vision you've welded into your thoughts. That's where the real battle is. That's where power is built. And once that battle is won, everything else becomes formality. Mental discipline is not optional. It is survival. In a world where distractions multiply like weeds and weakness is marketed as comfort, the man without control over his own mind is already defeated, not in body, not in position, but at the core, where all power originates. To win in life, you must first conquer the battlefield no one sees, the silent war of thoughts, urges, habits, and fears that rage within you from the moment you rise. Discipline is the shield that blocks the arrows of self-doubt. Discipline is the sword that slices through delay, procrastination, and excuse. Without it, every dream dies before it breathes. There are no shortcuts to inner mastery. Those who ascend are not lucky. They are forged. Forged in silence. Forged in early mornings when no one claps. Forged in moments when comfort whispers, but commitment roars louder. Most people allow their feelings to dictate their actions, but the disciplined man reverses this. He trains his mind to move whether it wants to or not. His thoughts do not drift aimlessly. They move with purpose. Each one is checked. Each one is measured. Because he understands what enters his mind eventually shapes his life, and he will not allow weakness to plant seeds where greatness must grow. Mental discipline means doing what must be done, especially when it's hardest. When the world is asleep, the disciplined man is working. When excuses are fashionable, he is building. He does not negotiate with laziness. He does not ask fear for permission. He wakes with clarity, lives with structure, and attacks his day like a general at war. Not because he enjoys pain, but because he